Chapter 44 Homeward Bound. As they flew away, rising quickly into the black night, leaving a now stationary Barnaby, Graham filled Bouncer in on the rest of the plan he had very quickly formulated. "Okay, Bouncer, I think we should cross into Norway, then island hop our way across the North Sea into the Shetland Islands, down to the Orkneys and finally into Scotland. It should be fairly easy. It'll be the last thing Barnaby will think of, I reckon," smiled Bouncer. "But aren't the Shetland Islands near Scotland?" "Well, I think you'll be surprised there, Bouncer. It's 335 miles or 539 kilometers from Norway to the Shetland Islands, and they're 295 miles or 475 kilometers from Scotland, so in reality there is very little in it. We will need to refuel at Scot, there's an airstrip, then we should be fine to the Orkneys, perhaps even Scotland itself, then it's only 335 miles or so to Inverness." "So what do we do then?" asked Bouncer. "Well, I think we should phase back into vehicles for sure. I know I'll need to deep recharge my phase shifter by then, and then we could lay low for a couple of days on the farm. We have to go virtually right past it on our way back south." "Really, we could go home?" Bouncer visibly sagged with a sense of relief at the thought of going back to their much simpler life of farming, sheep in sheds, if only for a couple of days. Bouncer got lost for a few moments in the memory of the days when the only scary thing was whether Graham would jump out in front of him, or not, and perhaps trying to sneak up on the Air Force base over the ridge of the mountain. Those simple days seemed so far away to Bouncer as they sped across the North Sea that they seemed almost impossible to return to. He could not get over the fact that a few months ago they had been living on Mars, sorry Trigon, and only a few weeks before that they had known nothing of space travel and UFOs. "Shall we call Farmer? Will we get him into trouble?" worried Bouncer. "I don't think so, Bouncer," replied Graham. "I can't see how Barnaby can link us to the farm, and the only real way to contact Farmer is by phone. I think we'll be okay just turning up." "Right," replied Bouncer. "Let's do it then, we are going home." As Graham flew on, Bouncer nodded off. They soon arrived at the Shetland Islands, and Graham refueled before flying on to Orkney and then the Scottish coast. After a few more minutes Graham could see the coastline, and consulting his maps worked out they would enter Scotland near a town called Gills. There he could land, shift back into Land Rover mode, and with Bouncer safe in the passenger seat start the long drive to the farm. He was positive they had raised no alarms, and before he knew it they were motoring down the A836 to Thistle before turning south on the A9. The A9 would get them all the way to Edinburgh before heading to Carlisle and finally the Lake District and their beloved farm. As Graham settled into his stride, he was still completely unaware of the tracker Barnaby had secreted back in Sweden. Within 24 hours there would be a knock at Farmer's door, and Barnaby would be the one asking the questions.